Morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Paul. I am doing absolutely wonderful today. How about yourself?
Doing a little bit better after talking to the National Weather Service, and I feel for those people in Texas and Louisiana, and I don't wish them anything, but I just hope that it dies down and doesn't be as devastating as it could be. They're talking about a Cat 3 as we look at it now. Any new news that you have?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, Paul. It's always great to be with you. And I'll also tell you, I spoke with President Trump last night, and he wanted to make sure I let everyone in Mississippi know that he's got our back, and he's got our back, and that he will. He's going to step in, and FEMA's going to be there for us, and true with Louisiana and Texas as well. But it was good to have a good conversation with him. But what we talked about is that the latest, particularly on Marco, it obviously kind of fizzled out as it ticked to the west across the Louisiana marsh. Now we're looking at Laura, which is just now getting into the Gulf of Mexico, and there's a lot of unpredictability anytime it comes off that Cuban shore and then gets into the Gulf. But right now they're expecting landfall late Wednesday, early Thursday, somewhere around the Louisiana-Texas border, and they're expecting it to take a pretty significant eastward turn once it hits landfall. And so right now it looks like the most significant thing for Mississippi will be significant rainfall in the northern part of our state, maybe in the northwest quadrant, certainly in the Mississippi Delta, but maybe over through Oxford and Tupelo and north of there as well. We could get significant rainfall. So both of these storms combined on Saturday look like they could potentially be both hurricanes that affected us, and now it appears that they're going to be very significant water events, but not a lot of hurricane-strength winds for Mississippi.
Well, as a former farm boy from the Mississippi Delta, it's not the time of the year we want floods in the Delta area.
Well, we always want a little bit of water. We just don't want it to destroy our crops. That's the main challenge that we look at now.
We want the water for the rice, but not for the cotton and the corn and everything else. So I don't know.
It's hard to get both, isn't it, Paul?
It is. Let's talk about the session yesterday. What happened and what your stance is on that, and what we took care of DMR yesterday, right?
That is correct, and I commend the leaders in the House and the Senate. We've all worked very, very hard over the last several months to try to get to a solution. You've heard me say this a lot. As everyday Mississippians, I do not encourage you to watch the making of the sausage, but at the end of the day, the sausage tends to taste pretty good. And so this particular bill that funds the Department of Marine Resources and the 180 employees that they have, primarily law enforcement officials, this is a very positive outcome for the state, and we worked closely with those leaders, particularly on the Gulf Coast, to get to a resolution. And I think it's one that everyone is happy with.
What else is out there? Didn't we have a criminal reform or justice reform tweak to do or something else? Yeah,
well, there's a couple of things that were also done yesterday. The new commissioner of the Department of Revenue was confirmed by the Mississippi Senate. The new leader of the Public Utilities staff was confirmed by the Mississippi Senate. Two new members of the parole board were confirmed by the Mississippi Senate. I had talked to Lieutenant Governor Hoseman over the weekend about all four of those nominations that I made, and I believe all four were unanimously confirmed by the Senate, so I appreciate that. There was a couple of vetoes that the legislature chose not to take up. Obviously, the bill with respect to felonies being expunged and other bills were not taken up. So, in essence, those vetoes have been sustained. And so, we're going to continue to work on that item. That's one that I am very interested in. It's, I think, important that we continue to look for ways to ensure that those inmates that serve their time and serve an adequate amount of time can reenter society and do so in such a way where they can be productive members of society. I've talked with Commissioner Burl Cain. We've got to do a better job on reentry programs. And I think that's the key, and that's really where we should focus our efforts. And we're gonna work with the House and the Senate leaders to do that.
But no reason right now. There's some things that we don't know about to call a special session.
At this time, there is no reason to call a special session. The The House and the Senate, I would imagine, will come in at 9 today and will not stay very long today. They'll get back to their respective communities throughout the state. They've got a couple of days left on their regular session that they could come back in should they choose to do so. Obviously, the Congress is still in the midst of conversating over the potential additional monies with respect to the coronavirus. They do not have a solution at this time. I am working with our delegation. I've spoken with several of those members over the last several weeks, and we're also working with members from other states as well, trying to make sure that if the Congress does anything, that they do it in a smart way, that they don't bankrupt the country. You know, the National Democrats want to spend $3.2 trillion, and that's just not realistic given the amount of debt that we already have in this country. And so we want to look for a plan that's closer to $1 trillion that actually targets the specific needs that our state and other states have. And I don't know that we're going to get a solution to that. And if we do, I would expect it'll be after the election because the Democrats will do anything to try to keep President Trump from getting reelected.
Well, we had the opportunity to have Diamond and Silk on just a few moments ago. We were talking about mail-in balloting, and I made the statement that there are African Americans out there, certainly Black Caucus and everybody else, who should be first and foremost to say we don't want this because I think it would protect their votes as everybody else. And this could get away from African Americans, Caucasian American, doesn't really matter. If the Democrats are able to do this, as far as the mail-in voting, it's gone.
Well, Paul, I'm reminded of President Obama's former chief of staff, the former mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, who said that as a liberal leader, they should never allow a crisis to go to waste. And in essence, that's exactly what the Democrats are trying to do across this country, is they're trying to utilize the crisis of the coronavirus, the pandemic, the likes of which we haven't seen in this country in over 100 years, and they're trying to use that pandemic as an excuse to implement every liberal policy you can imagine. And massive mail-in voting, which could potentially lead to significant voter fraud, is just one example of it. Now, I'm proud in our state, in Mississippi, our legislature, led by Chairman Beckett, as well as the chairman in the Senate, did a fantastic job on an election reform bill. And we're going to have a safe, fair election, and the reason for that is because Senator Branning and Representative Beckett did a great job passing legislation to ensure that. And we're going to do it without massive mail-in balloting.
These people are so hypocritic. It just drips with this. Jerry Nadler said this, I think it's been a couple of decades ago.
I just, as a very experienced practical politician from New York, feel constrained to observe that in my experience in New York, paper ballots are extremely susceptible to fraud. And at least with the old clunky voting machines that we have in New York, deliberate fraud is way down compared to paper. When the machines break down, they vote on paper. We've had real problems. I want a paper trail. I want paper somewhere. But pure paper with no machines, I can show you experience which would make your head spin.
Jerry Nadler saying he could tell us stories that would make your head spin. So that's a little scary.
Well, Paul, give them the opportunity to pass what they want to pass in many of these other states, and you're going to see story after story after story that would make your head spin, and it's really a challenge, and I'm hopeful that we can get through this election and do it in a safe and a fair way.
By the way, the Chicago mayor tagged not only the governor but the entire state of Mississippi, saying that we are her problem as far as gun control, and she targeted Mississippi. Could you answer that and a couple of more questions when we come back, sir?
I look forward to it, Paul.
You got it. The governor of the state. Yeah, Lori Lightfoot defended the personal police force deployed on her residential street. She wanted to cut the budget of the police department, but she made sure that the police were protecting her home. As a matter of fact, there were some arrests made, not in the Antifa crowd, but some people who were encroaching upon her property at her home, the mayor. She says the problem is states like Mississippi shipping guns to Chicago. She's on board with defunding police, but not in her neighborhood. Back with the governor. The governor back with us. At the same time, the problems go on in Chicago. The only solution she has, or the only answer to the problems, is it's our fault. People like Mississippi shipping guns to Chicago.
Paul, I can't even fathom what bizarro world you must live in to be the mayor of the city of Chicago and blame the state of Mississippi simply because we have what she said were very lax gun laws. What you and I know is it's a provision called the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution, which guarantees our right to bear arms. That's what she is upset about. They had 120 people shot in the city of Chicago in the month of July alone. Now, we all know that our gun laws in Mississippi haven't changed significantly in years and years and years. So it's just a liberal politician trying to blame somebody else for their own problems. And it's unfortunate, but we have to deal with that every single day. We're going to continue to fight for our right to bear arms. We're going to continue to support the Second Amendment, and we'll let the mayor of Chicago worry about the city of Chicago.
Governor of the state, Tate Reeves, while I got you on, let me ask you what your thought is as far as where we're sitting today as far as COVID-19 is concerned, because it seems to be a downward trend.
Yeah, Paul, it is a downward trend. It's we've got a lot of positive data. What I've tried to do throughout this pandemic is just sit down and tell the people in Mississippi the truth. And I tell them when things are bad, and I tell them when things are going well. So the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've had exceptionally encouraging trends. Now, I will tell you that last week we were down, but only a couple of percent compared to the week before. The first 3 days of this week, on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, we were actually up compared to the same 3 days a week ago. And so I'm a little bit concerned with where we are. I'm certainly not going to panic, but part of that is we are doing some more testing in and around our schools. We have a lot of kids back in school, which I think is critically important, and I think that's what the people of Mississippi want. But we've got to monitor that, and we've got to be careful. The best news we have is the significant downward trends in total hospitalizations. Paul, we had almost 1,250 people hospitalized that had confirmed or suspected cases of COVID just 3 weeks ago. That number's down below 900 today. We had 339 people in ICU beds. That number is now down by 100, closer to 230 today. And so very positive trends on hospitalizations, very positive trends over a 4 or 5 week period on number of cases. But we still have a little bit of work to do. We still have to do the little things so that we can enjoy the big things in the fall, like college football.
Are you satisfied with the decisions made as far as football is concerned, high school and college level?
Well, they've been hard decisions. Well, we know that. We have tried to take the approach that the most important people with respect to high school and college sports are the student athletes themselves, and so we want to give them that opportunity because you learn so many things on a football field and on a soccer field, on a basketball court, about leadership and about learning those skills that you really need in life. And so I want to make sure those student athletes have that opportunity. And the best way to do that is for us to limit crowd sizes. We're limiting them much more than I would like to, obviously. But if we can get through the next couple of weeks and continue to see a downward trend in total number of cases, we'll be able to expand the size of the crowds in certainly high school sports. But we got to work hard as a community and as a state over the next couple of weeks to continue to bring those numbers down.
So are you saying the flexibility on that one is you want to get at least 2 weeks or 3 weeks, 3 home games or 3 games underway before making some adjustments in that?
Well, actually, the MAIS started their regular season last week. Our current executive order goes until September the 1st, and so public school sports actually begin after September 1 by and large, not completely, but for the most part. And so we'll make a decision later in this week if we expand the number of individuals that are allowed in the stadiums. And it's going to be driven basically by the number of cases that we have over the last 10 days or so.
Speak to the GOP. It started yesterday, and vastly different than that sideshow that the Democrats had.
Well, what I saw last night, particularly from Senator Tim Scott, I thought he did a marvelous job laying out the reasons and the optimism that we as a party have looking towards the future. We believe in America where freedom reigns. We believe in America where any kid has an opportunity to grow up and be in the Congress, to be a United States Senator, potentially to be the President of the United States, whereas the Democrats believe in shutdowns. They believe in trying to slow down the economy. They believe in many instances in socialism. Certainly the Squad does. And that's just not what America is all about. That's not the principles on which we were founded. And so I'm actually getting more and more optimistic about the potential outcome of this election. The president, and when I talked to him last night, he's excited about the next 2 months and really laying out his vision for America. And if you think about the economic growth that we had under President Trump in 2017, 2018, and 2019, and you compare that to the policies of Obama, Biden in the 8 years prior, coming out of this pandemic, which policies do you want to lead America forward? And I think that's a very simple choice for the vast majority of Americans. And because of that, I think President Trump's going to get reelected.
The delegation is there as far as in North Carolina, as far as the GOP is concerned. Your statement on the possible changes in the chairmanship.
The chairmanship of
the Mississippi GOP.
Well, Lucian Smith has done a fantastic job leading our party over the last several years. In fact, he and I just communicated in the last 12 hours or so. We'll make those decisions in the coming days and weeks, but I do appreciate his service to the party. He's led us well. We had a great 2019, and we look forward to continuing to win elections in Mississippi, because that's really what the party apparatus is all about, is electing good, strong conservatives to office.
Being out last week, I know I missed some information, but the special election for the Senate District 39, I got Cindy Bryan coming on in a moment or two, but when is that election, or has it been set yet?
You know, I don't know the date off the top of my head. I think it's late September. My expectation was that the legislature will likely come back in session in early October, and I wanted certainly the people of Lincoln County and Lawrence County, as well as the people up in Oktibbeha County and the surrounding areas, to have representation as soon as possible. And so I think those elections are on a Tuesday in late September, and I just don't have the exact date in front of me, Paul.
So far, you pleased with the progress of the flag?
They're certainly making progress. Obviously, we have 9 individuals that are going to present an option to the people to vote on in the November elections, and I know they've narrowed it down to 5, and I look forward to their selection, and then I'll make a decision as to whether or not I think it represents Mississippi or not. From my perspective, I get a vote just like everyone else does.
Governor, it's always a pleasure. Any final thoughts, sir?
Well, the only final thoughts I have, Paul, is I want to thank y'all for what y'all do. Having this opportunity to speak directly to the people of our state is something that I certainly enjoy, and y'all do a great job. And all I can say is y'all just need to keep on keeping on.
Well, here's the deal. If you make it through 2020 with your sanity in your hair, 2021 is going to be great.
I think you're right, Paul. Thanks so much.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. The governor of the state of Mississippi.